Hi everybody, I'm still Ms. Lee. Today we're talking about factoring polynomials, or we're continuing to talk about factoring polynomials. Specifically, we're going to do an example of a trinomial that behaves like a quadratic, okay? So our example is going to be to factor the trinomial, or this expression, 2x to the fifth minus 26x cubed plus 72x. Okay, so just some notes to make here. When you see something like this, when you have some trinomial where the powers are decreasing by the same number in each of the terms. So if you see a trinomial, so first of all, this is a trinomial, meaning that there are three terms. Also, you see that the powers are decreasing steadily by the same amount. Obviously, it's in standard form. So it goes from 5 to 3 to, and there's like an invisible sort of 1 right there. And so they're decreasing incrementally and by the same amount, then we can probably use this method. So if you see a trinomial and then decreasing powers, then you're going to be able to use this method. Okay, so always, no matter what, first step when you're factoring, you should always be doing what? Factoring out the GCF, of course. Okay, so your first step is to factor out the GCF. Okay, and so then what is the GCF? Well, I see that each of them have an x, so there's at least one x that we're going to be factoring out. And then I see that all three of these numbers are even. So I'm going to factor out a 2x. Okay, so 2x. 2x times what is 2x to the fifth? Well, that's going to be x to the fourth minus, and then 2x times what is negative 26x cubed? Well, that's going to be 13x squared plus, and then 2x times what is 72x? Well, that's going to be 36. All right, so we're going to go ahead and make our big X, which is what we also do when we're dealing with quadratics. So this is not unfamiliar, or it should be familiar. And so we use the numbers inside here. And so there's a 36 at the top, negative 13 at the bottom. Well, what two numbers add up to negative 13 and multiply to 36? Well, that's going to be negative 9 and negative 4. Okay, so what you're going to go ahead and do is split the middle term. Meaning that you're going to write everything else the same except for that middle term. You're going to split that up between the two numbers, negative 9 and negative 4. So we have 2x times x to the fourth minus 9x squared. So you're splitting that negative 13x squared to be negative 9x squared minus 4x squared, and then plus 36. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and group the first two terms and the second two terms. Okay, so what that means is you're going to look at each one of these like sort of separately. So you're going to look at the x to the fourth minus 9x squared separately from negative 4x squared plus 36. Okay, so group the first two and second two. Okay, and so the greatest common factor between x to the fourth minus 9x squared, that's going to be x squared. And so we're factoring out an x squared, so you have 2x and then times x squared times x squared minus 9, because x squared times x squared is x to the fourth, and then x squared times minus 9 is the minus 9x squared. Then we have the minus 4, because the greatest common factor between negative 4x squared and 36 is minus 4. So we have minus 4 times and then x squared minus 9. Okay, So you need to check to make sure after you factor out greatest common factor that what's going on in the parentheses there are the same. And so you'll notice that indeed this x squared minus 9 and this x squared minus 9 are the same. So these are the same. And so what you're going to go ahead and do is like factor that out. You're going to factor that out of the entire group. So meaning that the 2x stays on the outside. Oops, I forgot to write the directions. So check that the inside of the parentheses are the same, and then factor that out. So we have 2x and then times. So what we're factoring out is the x squared minus 9. So you need to write that only once. So some of you guys like to make the mistake of writing that twice because you saw it twice here. But we're factoring that out, so you write it only once, and then you write basically what's left. And so that would be the x squared and the minus 4. So typically, if these are no longer factorable, you are done with this problem. Okay, so if this is not factorable, you are done. However, if you look at both of those highlighted factors, they are both special factors, and so we have to keep going. Okay, and so since these are a difference of squares, we're going to go ahead and keep going. So the 2x is still on the outside times, and then x squared minus 9. That's going to be factored into x plus 3 times x minus 3. And then the x squared minus 4 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 is what that factors into, because, again, this is a difference of squares. And there you have it. This is the factored form of our original expression at the top there, 2x to the 5th minus 26x cubed plus 72x. And if you want to check to make sure that this is right, you can multiply it out and just make sure that it multiplies to what we started with. All right, happy day.